We are so back. Look at us back in studio. Charlie Goldsmith, Joe Daneman. It's been, what, 3 weeks since we did this here on the big desk?
It's so nice you've been counting. I unfortunately have not been holding up my end of this desk and keeping track how many weeks it's been.
So 2 weeks ago, you were on the road for the Reds. Last week,
That's right.
we did a
Schedule
NFL schedule show, which you love the NFL schedule. I do have one schedule question in this show for you. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, we'll do one schedule question, but we are going to dominate the gold standard tonight with Reds talk because there are so many topics to get into. Team topics, individual player topics. You're just back from the road. Cleveland, Philadelphia. The Reds split the 6-game road trip, winning against Philadelphia. I know, no Schwarber, no Sanchez, no Wheeler. That's a thing. But the Reds did beat the hottest team in baseball, 2 out of 3 in the series. What was your biggest takeaway from the Reds road trip?
It was my biggest takeaway from the Reds' previous road trip as well, the road trip that was terrible. It's just all about pitching. The starting rotation and the structure, the bullpen are working so hand in hand right now. Short starts ruin it all, and then the bullpen is continuing to dig some of that as well when it's been one of those nights for the Reds pitching staff. But on nights where they get that type of winning performance from an Abbott, from a Burns, on nights where you've seen Graham Ashcraft be on as opposed to off, on nights where you don't need to do things like throw Luis May in the 6th inning of a high-leverage spot and then option him to AAA 2 days later. Like, when you actually get to play the game with your pitching staff, you're okay.
There is some news of the day. If you're watching this on the live stream right now, the news of the day is the Reds made a trade. It's a minor trade, but I have a take on Zach McCambley and the idea of bringing him here. Is this just a flyer that Rhys Hines was not going to be part of the Reds' future anymore? Might as well take a flyer on someone who could help this pitching staff?
Flyer is generally a lot more positive than something you'd say about someone who is the piece you get back in a DFA trade. I do know there was more interest in Hines than a typical guy who was designated for assignment because of the tools. The Reds didn't want to DFA Hines. They were just stuck. He can go to Louisville. He has enough swing and miss stuff that he was a target by the Phillies in the World 5 draft. He can give you length. So I could see him helping the Reds, like if they need length on a certain day or in a certain stretch, maybe he can help.
Am I correct? He has never pitched in the majors, only in the minors?
Yes, as a Rule 5 draft pick, though, and I think this is worth noting, he was competing for a spot on the Phillies roster, and they were seriously considering having him on their roster to start the year.
That's my take, though. Why not take a flyer? If you're going to get rid of Rhys Hines, might as well bring a guy into the organization. His numbers are pretty decent in AAA. I believe walks have been a problem for him, but you're right. He does have some swing and miss stuff, and for an organization that you talked about it right at the show open, pitching, they need it, especially in the bullpen right now. Why not take a flyer on a guy you were going to designate for assignment? Okay, let's talk about the Reds here. My biggest takeaway of the last couple of weeks is the offense has been better, okay? We've talked all season long about we did this during the NFL season, the idea of complementary football. No one ever talks about complementary baseball. Having the pitching and the hitting lineup at the same time, it seems like it's gone in reverse, where one's functioning, one isn't. But the guy right now that's leading me to believe that he's turned a corner and the offense might turn a corner with him, you can probably guess it. It's Spencer Steer and what he's done in the month of May. He's gone from hitting 190 in mid-April, now batting 273 overall. He's hitting 320 in the month of May. You just wrote an article about him on Charlie's Chalkboard. What is the key to what Spencer Steer is doing with his success?
He's just grown up, and there's kind of some beauty in that. And I could get into the weeds and talk about the timing and the mechanics of his load and the way he watches a high fastball, and that's all in the weeds. But that's kind of the point, because those are such detailed, specific things to improve on. He's showing the fact that it's year 4 for him in the league. And they're the types of advanced lessons that you learn by, one, being as smart of a player as Steer is, and then 2, just going through the experiences like he has. The other thing to stress as well is, like you said, a mini slow start. He had a major slow start last year. He learned so much about how to handle looking up at the scoreboard and seeing numbers that you despise. He learned what to do. And he saw that at the start of last year, and he handled it so well that now, literally for the first time since May of 2024, Steer gets to look up at the scoreboard and say, I like those numbers.
I like
pretty
that.
cool.
That is pretty cool. I know you don't have the numbers in front of you, and one of these numbers I'm going to ask you about, I don't know if they actually track this stuff. It feels like, and this is going to be a feels like moment that a lot of Reds fans I'm sure have as well. It feels like he's the Reds' most clutch hitter, and it also feels like he's such an excellent two-strike hitter. Are there any numbers that you have in your head at your disposal to back up what I'm seeing just from a feel of watching Spencer Steer?
I got some stories for you. September of 2025, Spencer Steer put the Reds on his back. Must-win games. I remember keeping track of, how did the Reds win each of these must-win games, and Steer's name was the one in bold as much as anyone on the team. He's a clutch player. The two-strike stuff, he credits a lot and this is going way back in the time machine, his Oregon College baseball coach, if I remember this right, who was the oldest of old school guys. It was like if Woody Hayes were still coaching college. This guy was 70. He'd make them, you do two-strike drills, and if you whiffed, you'd have to run foul pole to foul pole until the next guy missed. So part of it is how he was raised, and that makes him kind of a throwback player.
Okay, so if Ellie De La Cruz, by position player, if we were going to power rank the Reds position players, Ellie's 1, correct? Mm-hmm. Is Sal Stewart or Spencer Steer number 2 to you? I'm
still going to go with Sal.
Okay.
The case, though, with Steer, and we can talk about their offense, but I think Steer's versatility gives him an extra edge, and the ability to play the outfield is so valuable in helping the Reds get their best 9 on the field. But that shouldn't discount anything away from Sal's versatility.
Right.
I mean, the story of the season that no one's talking about is that this guy didn't take a single ground ball at third base all spring. And now, as a part of the plan to reduce Brian Hayes' playing time, he's just out here playing a perfectly fine third at 22 years old after not even practicing the position. It's also not his native position. That's second base. So more positive things that Sal brings to the plate. 9
hits for Sal the last 4 games, 2 home runs, 3 extra base hits. This is the way we always talk about it, right? A guy comes out on fire, the league kind of figures him out, they make their adjustment, he has to make the adjustment back. Is it as simple as that? That's getting Sal back to producing the way he did the first month of the season?
Pretty much, and I can go into some of the mechanics. He was doing so well on certain pitches, so they started jamming him with inside fastballs. And to get that pitch, you have to be on it and early and pull that down the line for a homer. And so when you're thinking that fast, he kind of got in some swing happy mode. He got out of his shoes a bit. He got maybe a tad over aggressive. I also think that he was much better than the numbers looked. I believe the number is 10 hard hit flyouts or lineouts in the first 10 days of May. During the series against the Astros, he flew up to the warning track every single day. So he was still making contact and hard contact. To really get back over the last week, Sal will tell you, living opposite field again and reprioritizing that and then taking his walks. Those are things he really did well in Cleveland, day 1 in Philly, and then that kind of blossomed over the course of that series.
Tell me I'm wrong with this. Terry Francona said he didn't want to play lineup bingo. Has he been playing just a little bit of lineup bingo?
He's been playing a lot of
it.
He's playing lineup bingo like it's cribbage. And that goes to show how much instability there's been in the Reds lineup. Third base, center field, the leadoff spot. They don't have those answers right now. And Terry Francona is seeing what sticks, and that is so uncharacteristic of him. He's doing the exact same thing in the bullpen. They went from the most structured bullpen in baseball to as unstructured as any bullpen in baseball. And that's a sign of that this team's depth, they're still figuring that out.
Cribbage?
You don't know what cribbage is?
I've heard of it. Have you played it?
I haven't, but Tito plays it every day with Mike Napoli. How do you think they became such good friends?
By playing cribbage, I guess. Okay, 2 guys I want you to talk about here, and you mentioned the first one. These are guys who have lost playing time or are losing playing time. Everybody's asking about Brian Hayes. It kind of felt like it reached a boiling point with the back-to-back double plays the other night. Do you get the sense that Brian Hayes is no longer the guy that Terry Francona pencils into third base the majority of the time? Do you think that's done?
It's already changing, and I think Eugenio Suarez's pending return is going to further chip away at that. Now, I think you'll hear sometimes an argument of, well, the underlying metrics, but at some point, to me, the sample size is so large. Will Benson's a similar kind of player in that, yes, the underlying metrics look better, but the results of the results, the true numbers are just at a point where there's something that just disconnects. And for you, the underlying metrics may not lead to a certain level of production. Now, take this, like Cabrian's been okay against lefties. Like he's been passable against lefties. So you don't need to completely give up on him, and you can put him in against lefties and get him some starts in a situation where you're playing Sal more at third, Gino more at third. But the fact that you're already there with Cabrian before it's a full year into his Reds career, I mean, this trade was one I wasn't, pounding the table for at the start, and it's really gone below expectations.
The other player is TJ Friedl. We've talked a lot about TJ on this show. Only one start in Cleveland, only one start in Philadelphia. Is this phase out kind of a permanent thing, or is this a kind of see who else we have that can fill in center field? I mean, this guy was the Reds center fielder and leadoff hitter and was great at both last year. And here we are in the middle of May, and does it feel like this team is moving on from TJ Friedl and his position in this lineup?
Well, unfortunately, let me go back on one thing you said. He wasn't great defensively last season.
Okay.
And that's another example that shows like there's been a decline.
He had big moments.
That's been, yes, some robbed homers, absolutely. But there's been a year-over-year decline really since the hamstring and soft tissue stuff that popped up for him in 24.
Okay.
And as he's gotten older, the problem is that, Blake Dunn, great. It's a couple games. Let's see how he can build on it. Will Benson's the guy they've been putting in center field over him when they've not played Friedl, and it's not like Benson's taken that and run with it. Your center fielder in AAA now is Noelvi Marte, who has to prove that he can be a consistent enough player to earn all that comes with that job, and you can make that case, but I think if you called Noelvi up right now, he'd play right. Like he's probably still needs some more time before he's your flag-carrying center fielder, and that's it. And Carlos Jorge's had a nice season in AA, and he's kind of turned some heads, but other than that, it's not like they have the Sal Stewart of center fielders coming up through the system, so they're kind of stuck.
Andrew Abbott has turned things around this season. What are the numbers telling you about what Andrew Abbott has done in recent games?
How about the heat maps? I think heat maps is the right term, and the stick figures. Abbott is he's a pitcher. Old school, read swings, use the whole zone. He was struggling, and so to get out of it, he embraced analytics more than he ever had. And not just analytics, biomechanics. And I mean, not necessarily the most fun topic for any baseball player to get into. These guys probably weren't going to be biomechanic majors at Harvard if this whole baseball thing didn't work out. But Andrew was open to it, and he locked in on some specific graphs that showed him in black and white concrete data, hey, this is off, this is off, this is off. And it's not just like photos, it's how you move over time, superimposed comparative to how you used to move over time. So he could see where his hands were at this point based on where his arm was at this point. So he found the exact pinpoint spots that he needed to get the mechanics back locked in. And when he did that, the fastball was jumpier, the breaking ball was loopier, the command was better. So that's kind of a fun organizational story.
Absolutely.
Andrew opening up the science textbook, because he was at that page of where he was at, and it's been working for him.
Fist bump for that. That was a great answer. Okay, last Reds topic before we jump to the Bengals. This is fun, okay? You interviewed Ellie just a couple of days ago, right? What, 3 days ago?
3 days ago, 2 days ago, yeah.
I'm trying to think of the last time we got a really good quote, soundbite from Ellie De La Cruz, because we talked to him at spring training, we get to talk to him after he has a big game, and it's a lot of, I'm just trying to play every day. That's what he always kind of leans into. The numbers will take care of themselves. Can you recall the last time you got just like a great nugget or a great quote from Ellie De La Cruz?
Like I'm really excited about some of the stories I've told about Ellie.
Yeah.
A lot of those stories aren't being carried by Ellie's quotes.
Right.
I think every year you're seeing him become a bit quieter, and that's fine. That's a part of the league. That's a part of the process. But I think that side of his personality has really shifted. Like, I talked to Ellie before he was on the radar. Like, this was a upbeat, let's share my whole life story kind of situation. And I think you've seen that change just in terms of how he carries himself publicly and how he speaks publicly and kind of the way he uses the media. That's changed year over year over year. And there have been steps back in the frequency and the elaboration that maybe there's been from him.
We are 15 minutes into the gold standard. I haven't said the words Chase Burns. We're going to come back to Chase Burns when we get to the gold rush, and I think it's a fun topic here for the Reds. 2 questions on the Bengals before we get to the gold rush. You and I were in the Reds press box when the schedule was leaked for the Bengals. We both had our takes in the press box. We haven't had your take on the gold standard on, I know you don't love the schedule reveal. It's very much a made-for-TV event. I get it. Is there anything that stands out to you? I'll give you mine first, okay? That we knew the opponents. We knew where the Bengals would play. But when I saw it laid out, I kind of said to myself, oh, this is a little bit harder than I thought it would be. There are difficult stretches, I believe, in September, difficult, maybe season-defining stretch in December for this team. Is there any take you have about the Bengals schedule now that it's been revealed?
So this has just been my boilerplate schedule take, which is that week 2 game against the Texans. Like, just give me my popcorn.
Yes.
I've been devoting all of my schedule analysis to just making sure we understand how exciting of a matchup this is between the Bengals offense and the Texans defense. Like, my comp for this has been like KD versus LeBron. Because what the Bengals offense, the whole thing is Joe's the most accurate quarterback in the league, and they've got the best ball winners in the league in Jamar and T. Like, it's a man-beat-man system. Houston's defense, it's very, very different from Seattle's defense. Houston's whole idea is it's a man-beat-man system. They've got the best edge rush duo in the league, the best corner duo in the league. They've got this fearless downhill ability. They attack you. They dare you to shred them, but our guys are better than you, so you won't. Well, except one team, the Bengals dudes might be better than theirs, or maybe not, and I can't wait to see that heavyweight fight play out.
So within the Fox 19 now sports department, we typically try to divvy up all the Bengals road trips so we all get a chance to go on the road and do some of the Bengals road games. There are very few times I ever flex my seniority. When the schedule came out, I said, that's my number 1 pick. If we're doing a draft, I want to be in Houston week 2 to see that game from the sideline. So I'm basically circling that on my own schedule. You know what I found out today? Kind of cool too. FC Cincinnati plays Houston the night before.
That's cool.
So I'll get a little double dip there. I'll go cover that game and then go cover the Bengals and the Texans, which could be a preview of a playoff game, two of the better rosters in the AFC in week 2. Second Bengals question before the gold rush. The Bengals are favored in 15 of 17 games on their schedule, but the odds makers say the Bengals are the second highest favorite to win the AFC North. Feels like a bit of a disconnect. Feels like, okay, we want to see it to believe it with Joe Burrow and his health. Did they get it wrong by having the Ravens as the favorite in the AFC North over the Bengals?
I'd still pick the Ravens just because I believe, first of all, I think their new offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle, is a very bright, very interesting, exciting guy to get that unit at the level it needs to be. And then, of course, Jesse Minter and what he does defensively is as interesting schematically as any team in the league. So I think they have enough on both sides. Now, their trench situation could be the floor that falls out from under Baltimore's season on both sides of the ball. But the balance they have and the ideas they have to so easily take a next step offensively and defensively, I'd still pick Baltimore, but I think the Bengals are right there as a true AFC contender this year.
My big pushback on the big AFC North narrative that the Bengals have continuity and the other teams have all this change within their coaching staff. All 3 teams besides the Bengals in the AFC North have a new head coach. Maybe change is a good thing for these teams, right? That maybe it got stale with John Harbaugh. Maybe it got stale with Mike Tomlin, and someone can come in and revitalize things at these organizations. To me, it's not a slam dunk that it's a good thing for the Bengals and a bad thing for those teams. We'll have to see how the year plays out. Okay, now the gold rush, and this is going to be very heavy on Joe Burrow. I want to know, were you sitting in the press box in Philadelphia before the Reds game yesterday watching the Joe Burrow press conference live? I know that's probably not your style.
Usually I do. I knew this one that I knew the content would find me. I didn't need to find the content. And I kind of consumed it that way as opposed to sitting down and dissecting the Joe Burrow press conference film.
So here we go with the gold rush, rapid fire. Best quote from Joe Burrow was what to you?
I mean, it's the whole, this is the most talented. Yeah. Can I have a second on that, though?
Sure.
Here's my take. Burrow knows that's not true. The 2022 roster was so good.
It was good.
What a team. I think about that team all the time. But the easiest way for Burrow to convince everybody, people who think he wants out of Cincinnati, people in the locker room, that we have a Super Bowl roster, we have what it takes. That's clearly the message Burrow feels can be most impactful, and that's great, of course. The easiest way to say that is through a message like that. It doesn't mean that's actually true. I feel like Burrow is trying to just more send a message about what Bengals' expectations should be,
right, and
not giving a Madden rating on the 2026 roster versus the 2022 roster, because that 2022 roster was perfect. That's fine. It's fine. That was a fine way to say it. It just doesn't make what he said true.
Excellent analysis. I like where you're going with that. Okay. What was the one quote you were surprised to hear from Joe Burrow? I'll give you a second to think about it when I give you mine. When he said he had less involvement with the front office this year than maybe any other year he can remember. That surprised me. I figured he'd be very involved in, maybe he's not telling us the full truth on this one, but it does feel like he stepped away from Cincinnati for a while, got away from football, said he found some happiness outside of football, traveling, going to big time events, hanging out with his friends. Was there anything Joe said that surprised you?
Let me hit on that for a second. What made Burrow so involved publicly was he wanted one thing. He wanted T. Higgins, his friend and this perfect fit who, I know a lot of us believed the Bengals should have just made a priority all along. He had to change a lot of people's minds about that. This offseason, what did Burrow want? Defense. And while Brian Cook was the best free agent, free safety in his mind on the market, to Burrow, how those moving pieces shook out, I don't think were as important if you're getting this D tackle and this safety as opposed to there's only one T. Higgins. In terms of surprises, the Hendrickson quote was spicy. I don't know if that was a pre-planned thing from Burrow, but it certainly came out as something that felt headline generating.
Hidden gem from Joe Burrow, and you hit on it. I think he was talking about Brian Cook in a way that I didn't expect him to talk about him. What you said, being the best free agent safety on the market. I don't know if a lot of people would have ranked him that way, but Burrow said that multiple times here. Everybody thought, anybody talking about this Bengals offseason, the headline and the starter would be Dexter Lawrence. You're going to go, the big trade for Dexter Lawrence. Twice when Joe talked about this team attacking the offseason, he went to Brian Cook first. I think that was a bit of a hidden gem of Joe saying how good this guy could be in Cincinnati. Was there anything hidden in Joe's press conference that you saw from clips or a hidden message that you took from what he said?
It's the Cook thing.
Yeah.
I think Cook's like the winner of phase 1 of OTAs. You don't do anything. There's no but I'm buying Brian Cook stock. He's one of the best interviews I've done this whole calendar year, Reds, Bengals, anything, was I sat down in the locker room. I talked for 20 minutes with Brian Cook a couple weeks ago. What a fascinating individual. He's kind of got some Von Bell in him in that he's kind of speaking quietly, but he's saying the most profound wisdom you've ever heard in your life. And everyone just sits around and you're like, this guy gets it.
Yeah.
He's got it. And Brian has that. And then, of course, he can play. And I went through a lot of film as well, recently. This guy's really good. But just the presence he had, I was blown away by the conversation I had with him.
Final question in the Gold Rush. Going back to the Reds here. What's the max number of players the Reds could get to the All-Star game? And this is what I talked about Chase Burns earlier. Right now, I think if you said it, it'd be Chase Burns and Ellie De La Cruz. Can Sal Stewart? Could Spencer Steer say way hot throughout the rest of May into June, get his batting average in the 290s and be considered? What do you think the max is?
I think it's 3.
Yeah.
And Steer or Stewart, if they won enough games, whoever would be hotter there would be the one, to force your way into that conversation. It's funny though, usually what it ends up being is you can kind of pad your stats with some extra pitchers. Let's be real. Technically, Andrew Abbott was an injury replacement. That doesn't take away from the All-Star nomination. But because of the slow start Abbott had, and then because of the gap behind that in the Reds' rotation and in their bullpen, there's not quite that next man up who could step in as an injury replacement on the pitching side.
The Gold Nugget, final segment of the show, is Charlie's segment when he shares a story, an anecdote, a quote from something he's working on or has published on Charlie's chalkboard. You were with the Reds for 6 games on the road, sometimes as a writer. that's a great chance to get more one-on-one time with individual players. Okay, so what's the gold nugget you have for the gold standard? It's your portion of the show.
I'm going to do a scene, and it isn't even Reds related, but it's like actually one of the coolest things I've ever seen. The 2016 Guardians made it to the World Series, and with Tito and with Mike Napoli, a big part of that team in town, they honored that team when the Reds were in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And here's Andrew Miller, here's et cetera. Here's the team. They brought him out of the bullpen coming from center field. And then here's Jose Ramirez. And keep in mind, it's the 10-year anniversary. Jose runs out of the dugout in full uniform, and he joins the team in center field. And as he's hugging the guys, he's literally stretching his hamstrings and doing your gym class calisthenics because he has a game to get ready for in 10 minutes. And then I looked it up too. What I had forgotten was how good Ramirez was in 2016. He finished 17th in AL MVP voting, and he finished 3rd in 2025. But just how, it might have been the coolest thing I've ever seen. When they're celebrating the World Series berth that you were the star of. And so it had me wondering of in 2031, they bring out Logan Wilson and DJ Reader and then Burrow just runs out of the tunnel and high fives the guys and goes and does the coin flip.
That's great. Evan McPherson, maybe?
He could be still playing.
He could still be playing at time. Kickers sometimes go to late 30s. Okay, if cribbage isn't your game.
I don't have a game.
You don't have a game, a card game?
Well, I mean, my game is NBA 2K. That and Golden Tee, and I know those aren't card games. I'll take my money up against pretty much anybody when it comes to either one of those.
Really? 2K? Yeah. Do you have a go-to team?
No, I have a go-to offense.
Oh.
Very pick and roll oriented. I like getting in the.
Find James
what do you
Harden.
even call it? The baseline short corner is a place where I run a lot of my offense through. I use the roll man a lot. I've never quite figured out off-ball actions to get, pop threes. That'll be something to work on during the offseason.
Poker?
I've played all the stuff.
Euchre?
I've played poker.
Hearts?
I haven't played hearts.
Okay. Cribbage, never played it. Gin rummy?
Heard of it.
Heard of it too. Hey, the gold standard, heard of that as well. We just put another one in the books. Charlie Goldsmith, Joe Danneman, we do this every week here on live streaming on Fox 19 Now. Plus, it goes to the podcast feed the next morning and every place you get all of our content here on Fox 19 Now. For Charlie Goldsmith, I'm Joe Danneman. We will see you next week live streaming on the Gold Standard.